What is up, y'all? What is up,
Ween.
y'all? It's Emmy Nixon and Michael Ween for the Raw Prospect Podcast, episode 14. Michael's on the phone with me right here. Today we're going to rank our top 10 moments of top 10 sports moments of 2018 in our opinions. So it's not going to conclude sports like tennis and things like that. Just mostly basketball, football, baseball, and some soccer as well. So, and then once we get to that, we may or may not have a couple guests on the phone here today, Jake Ruby and Matthew Benedict, but they have other plans, so it's up in the air right now. But let's just get to it.
So we're gonna count down 10 to 1. These are 10 American sports moments of 2018. This is in both of our opinions. At number 10, we also included hockey. We don't talk a lot of hockey on this podcast. In fact, we never have. But the Vegas Golden Knights made the Stanley Cup final for the first time ever as an expansion team. It was their first year ever as a franchise, and they made the Stanley Cup final. They did not win the Stanley Cup final, but they did. The Washington Capitals actually won their first title in a long, long time. I don't know the details. I just know Golden Knights were an expansion team, and they made the Stanley Cup final, which is pretty darn impressive in itself. So whatever y'all want to think of that. You have any comment, Emmy?
Mostly I'll just say, I don't know how other leagues like the NBA will look at that and feel about expansion teams. I don't know if it changes how these other leagues feel about adding an expansion team, especially since in the hockey league, I know that they were feeling some type of like they weren't feeling that they had the expansion draft, so a certain amount of players on each team were available, and they just drafted their guys and they went to the Stanley Cup final. So that's just I understand where they would be coming from there. I wouldn't be happy about that if I was a Stanley Cup team and a first year team just goes to the final, But they earned it.
At number 9, we have some baseball. World Series Game 3. I'm not sure if y'all remember or even watched the World Series, but the Los Angeles Dodgers facing the Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox did win the series in 5 games, defeating the Dodgers 4-1 in their dominant postseason run. They did win the World Series. But in Game 3, the Dodgers' only victory in the series, back in LA, it was the infamous 18-inning game. The Dodgers won the game, I believe, 3-2. And I have some notes here for all the records that were set in that game. It was the longest postseason game ever by time, by duration. It lasted 7 hours and 20 minutes. And it was also the longest World Series game by innings, 18 innings. It matched Game 4 of the 2005 NLDS. And the Astros played the Braves in Game 2 of the 2014 NLDS. It was also set the record for most combined pitchers used in a postseason game. 18 combined pitchers between the two teams, 9 each. And then 46 of the combined 50 players, of the combined 50 available players for that game, played in the game. That's also another record. So there are so many more records set in this game, but it was, if you didn't watch it, it was certainly something it ended with a Max Muncy walk-off in like the 18th inning. I'm sure the fans were happy to get out of there. And I'm sure, especially because it was in LA, that was their only one of the series. It was just everything about it. It set records. Everything about it
was historical, honestly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's mostly the reason why it was on the list. It wasn't spontaneous in any way. It wasn't like an overly exciting game.
Yeah.
But I feel like it deserved a place on here just because of all the records.
Yeah. Also, picture this. Both teams threw a combined 561 pitches.
Wow.
283 by the Red Sox and 278 by the Dodgers. They don't know if that's a record, but they think it is. So,
because I'd imagine they probably didn't keep track of that.
Yeah, the game was so long they started keeping track of all this stuff. So, I read something. I read this somewhere. A little factoid. In the time it took to play this game, you could have flown from Boston to Los Angeles. You could have left Boston, flown to Los Angeles, and the game would still be going by the time you got to Los Angeles. And that's across the country.
Yeah.
You know, not the sides of the country. So,
yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
What's our number 8?
Our number 8 is the buzzer beater Jordan Poole hit in round of 32 of the NCAA March Madness this year. They were playing 6 seed Houston. They were the 3 seed Michigan.
Yeah.
And this game was it was probably the most, I wouldn't say the most entertaining game of the tournament, but I'd say it's close second, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The 3 that he hit, it came right after what would have been a go-ahead shot from Aaron Gray.
Yeah.
So it was a great game, and the buzzer beater he hit, it was from almost half court. It was just the likelihood of something like that happening is just not high at all.
Yeah.
And that's why it's on this list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Michigan ended up winning the game 64-63. They beat Houston, and they ended up going to the Sweet 16. And that shot kind of sparked their run to the national championship, I would say.
Yeah.
And now, look at them now. They're like, 12 or 13-0, dominating college basketball so far. So, definitely a big moment.
For their program.
That's why people love March Madness so much, is because of shots like that.
It just shots like that spark a run like that. It can change the entire direction of your program.
Yeah.
So
and then people, honestly, there wasn't really a moment, but people think back. One of the first things they think of is Loyola Chicago's run to the Final Four. But there wasn't really one specific moment in that run that stood out.
Yeah.
So that's definitely another thing, another story. It's one of the greatest sports stories of 2018, but there's not really a moment in that.
Mm-hmm. I guess you could say the game they had against Nevada, but
yeah.
I don't think that would be as memorable to the casual fan as something like this.
Yeah.
So
Um,
with that, we can move on. At number 7, we got France winning the World Cup. They beat Croatia 4-2.
the final.
Yeah, in the World Cup final. Yeah, and
They won their second overall World Cup and their first since '98. The special thing, and the reason I think this should be on the list, is because a star was born in this World Cup for basically the whole world of soccer. Kylian Mbappe, 19 years old, scored 4 goals in a span of 7 games, including 2 goals in their 4-3 victory over Argentina in the semis. This guy, 1 year older than myself, was dominating his first ever World Cup on a stage like that where the whole world's watching. He was dominant.
yeah.
And for the team, they were young, they were fast, they were very dynamic, and made an incredible run.
And just the way they played was fun to watch.
Yeah.
Some teams in the World Cup, like Russia, for example. No disrespect to Russia, but the way they were playing, they had their whole lineup back, and they were playing defense the whole game. They were just playing for counterattack or waiting to penalty kicks. That was the only way they knew they could win.
Yeah.
They were just playing for that.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible to watch a guy so young, yet so dominant, scoring many goals in that many games, including 2 to help them beat Argentina in order to get to the final game itself. And then another big story was the fact that Croatia got to the final. Moscow. I believe a lot of people were actually rooting for Croatia to actually win, but you got to give it to France. They deserved it.
Yeah.
The way they played the whole entire tournament.
I'd say they were the most complete team. I feel like
keep going.
I feel like Croatia's strength was specifically in their midfielders, Modric and what's his name? I forgot his name, but I think it was the more complete team
for sure.
I
mean, but I know we kind of focused on American sports moments in particular. Just the world, global stage, and what that young man did in that short amount of time to lead this team to a World Cup victory, something he may never begin at that young of age, was just incredible.
Yeah, and just his style of play too. It's really flashy, and just he's really shifty with the ball. He just
and I think that's something soccer needs, is a young star to get the world's attention. Someone who can take the place.
Maybe just America's attention.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Ronaldo and Messi are aging, so they need a new one,
yeah, exactly.
a new guy.
So something soccer needs is some more younger stars. The U.S. didn't make it. That's a whole other story for another day. Losing to Trinidad and Tobago. About that another time. Let's move on. I'm sure all of you know this by now, even if you don't pay attention to the NBA. J.R. Smith, the NBA Finals against the Warriors. Cleveland had a chance to go into Oracle, steal game 1. George Hill misses a free throw. J.R. Smith somehow gets the rebound. Doesn't realize that, was the game tied or were they down?
The game was tied. The game was tied. thought they were winning.
Mhm.
Because George Hill hit the free throw to tie it, and then he missed the second.
Yes,
he got he got the rebound over Kevin Durant, and then he didn't put it up.
Yeah, he tried to dribble out the clock. Maybe the most fantastic moment that came out of all this was LeBron's face.
Yeah, that's what I was.
After the whole situation happened. But just the stupidity of a guy like JR, not knowing the situation in a moment so big. I mean, even if they did, I'll say this, even if they did win game one, I don't think they wouldn't have assure you of that, but it may have gone maybe to 6 games, I'd say, if they had stolen that game.
Yeah.
But in a stage as big as that, the NBA
in the finals, like you think you'd know.
Yeah.
And just being in the NBA, you think you just have I need to know what the score is, what the situation is at all times.
Yeah, exactly.
And he clearly just had no idea.
Yeah, and it was, man, I don't know what was going through his head or what happened, but I mean, he got the rebound and had like a little floater or some
he could have just put it right back up.
Basically a layup.
Yeah.
Decided to dribble it out and try it, and that you saw at the last moment. He tried to pass it to someone to try and bail him out.
Yeah, he tried to pass it to George Hill in the corner.
Yeah,
but it was too late.
Got blocked.
Yeah.
So whatever.
Just the relevance of this moment is just the fact that this, looking back in 20 years on 2018, made his decision and left. I know that's not true, but that's how it will be remembered. That's the moment LeBron left Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
So
for sure.
That's
factored into the decision. So. At number 5, UMBC Retrievers beating the Virginia Cavaliers, the 1 seed, 74-54. And just before, number 16 seeds were 0-135 against 1 seed. So it never happened in the history of the NCAA. We're talking in the time span since 1985, because 1985 was when the tournament expanded to 64 teams. But since that time, in the 135 tries, a 16 seed and a 1 seed, they had never won. And it finally happened. University of Maryland, Baltimore County, the 64th and overall beat Virginia, the number 1 overall seed in the tournament and the number 1 team in the nation, in the first round of the tournament, first 16 seed to beat the 1 seed, historical fashion. They dominated them 74-54, won by 20. I believe they were 20.5-point underdogs coming into the game, and they ended up winning the game. One of the greatest things that ever happened, not for me as a Virginia fan, but Virginia's been on the wrong side of some upsets. But this game was just UMC figured out the defense. And the thing is, up until that point, Virginia had not allowed over 70 points in a game the entire season. No team even got to 70, including Duke and all. No team even reached 70 or got close. And UMBC was able to put up 74, 53 points in the second half. Game victory. Virginia coming into the game was 31-2 and hadn't allowed 7 points. Bad to watch but for the overall audience of the madness, people who don't really care about college basketball, don't really pay attention, but love to see the upsets, watch this just to see the upsets, this was fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's the first time that this had ever happened in over 40 years of trying. So,
and we knew it was coming in this era of one and done. The playing field is leveled, and smaller schools are going to have 4-year players. More someone came in hot and just was hitting their shots, it would happen. And it's exactly what happened. They were just making shots, as simple as that.
I believe they made 54% of their shots. And if you guys know anything about college basketball, in order to beat Virginia, you got to make a good percentage of your shots that aren't inside. Most of the time, you don't get a lot of opportunities on, say, layups or shots inside the paint. So you got to be really good and efficient at hitting your three-pointers, shots outside the paint, and they did a fantastic job of that. The next thing I want to mention, and last thing I want to mention, is Jerry Seidel scoring 28 transition buckets. They were able to turn Virginia over, something Virginia never does, turn the ball over, and they found a way to rattle Virginia, turn the ball over, get transition, and they were making everything. They were making transition threes, shots on the run, shots off the catch. It was fun to watch.
Yeah.
And the historical significance of it in the top 5.
Yeah.
You want to talk about number 4?
Yeah. Number 4 is Tua Tagovailoa's touchdown pass in the national championship game, Alabama versus Georgia, and really just that entire second half.
Exactly.
As you all probably know, Jalen Hurts struggled the whole first half. They were down big, and the game just shifted.
Exactly. Like, I believe they were down something like 13-0 at halftime. I think, right?
Yeah, and it should have been more than that. Georgia.
In Georgia, I mean, the score doesn't really tell you the score. Dominating Alabama, manhandling, where you thought, what is Nick Saban going to have to do? What adjustment is he going to have to make in order to win this game? Georgia was just dominant everywhere you looked, on the line of scrimmage, making him feel rattled. It was just dominant by Georgia. And then at halftime, Saban decides to put in this man, Tua Tagovailoa. And he balled out. And then in overtime, he threw that 41-yard pass to Devontae Smith. Beautiful ball down the sideline. And remember, that was, I believe, on a 4th down. The play before, Georgia had sacked them, taking them out of field goal range, and I think Alabama had to go for it. And they threw it down the sideline, and he was open, he caught it, and it went down in history.
Yeah.
Alabama won their 5th national championship since 2009, and they'll get their 6th. So we'll talk about later.
Yeah, and that's just the moment to arrive, really.
Mm-hmm.
And if he goes on to win this year, then win again next year, which is very likely, then he could go down as one of the greatest college football players of all time.
Absolutely.
Just numbers. He basically lost the Heisman just because he got hurt, and I can't think of anyone else that I would put ahead of him in terms of winning the Heisman next year because of the defense he has.
And the amazing thing about it was this year in the SEC championship game, it was kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
Tua kind of struggled, threw 2 interceptions, eventually got hurt, got to the point where he couldn't come back in. They put in Jalen Hurts, and they came back and won the game. It's kind of the opposite, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. Just a good moment for Jalen Hurts, really, because he was the one that had to sacrifice through all this, and then he was able to have his moment again. I'm surprised he didn't transfer though. That was kind of interesting to me, but that's off topic. Is that all you want to say about that?
Yeah, I just thought this. I mean, the throw was beautiful, but the fact he was able to overcome the adversity he suffered the play before when he took that big sack that put him out of field goal range. They were down 23-20. To go, so they had to go for it on 4th down, and he threw a beautiful ball after he took that humongous sack, which he shouldn't have, and they scored a touchdown. It was clutch. It was amazing. The whole performance in general was amazing. It was just, I mean, there has to be some really special moments to overtake this one. But we have 3 of them, so let's go to number 3.
Yeah. At number 3 is the notorious Philly Special
in Super Bowl 52.
Yeah. Nick Foles caught a touchdown pass.
Yeah.
And I think it was so he pitched it, and then they pitched it to Burton, and then Foles had run his route out to the corner of the end zone. He was just wide open. But the play itself wasn't the significance of it. The significance of it was just how famous it became. Just the fact that Philly had never won a Super Bowl, and winning it in that fashion is what will be talked about in 20 years.
Almost every year.
Yeah. And of course, stopping the whole Tom Brady 6 rings for now.
The amazing thing about it was the 2 players, the tight end who threw the touchdown pass, Trey Burton, and the running back, what's his name? Smallwood, was it?
Wendell Smallwood.
Those players were both undrafted. So you had a backup quarterback who wasn't even supposed to be playing in the game, but was, and led him to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then a 3rd-string tight end who was undrafted, and a running back. And the guts and the balls they had to go for it on 4th down in the Super Bowl just before halftime it was a huge moment in the game. But now, you've seen it kind of rub off on some other teams. Other teams are running the play now. And it's just, it was amazing to watch. The guts you had to call that play in that situation against that team. That's some Bill Belichick type stuff. And that's what won them the game. I mean, that's what you have to do.
Hold on for a second. Something's going on with the audio. When I went live, the green things at the bottom, it's basically like a gauge of how loud it is.
Yeah.
It's not showing up anything right now. I don't know why. Yeah. I unplugged my mic a long time ago. It should have been because my mic wasn't working at the end, so I just unplugged it. But it should have been
Mhm.
Should I refresh the page or?
I don't know, whatever you think.